Okay, so on to the next custom series, man. This one over here is called Kicks and Flats Addict. It's a Sammy series. Most of you might know Sammy already. He's the one who always orders the Tremonti tracks, and he orders the Alter Bridge tracks and all that good stuff. A lot of these series are really, really good. Actually, I'd say all of these series are really good. We're starting this one over here. We're starting with Metallica, The Unforgiven. I don't know anything of Metallica outside of Nothing Else Matters. We're starting with this one over here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the series. The series is going to be a little bit longer than most series. This was a custom package because there was a particular playlist that Sammy wanted to do for this one. So I gave him a sort of package deal on more reactions. And we'll try and see. We'll knock it out in the next... I'm hoping to knock it out in 3 days, but the likelihood is it probably will take 4 days to knock this out. So... yeah, anyway, let's rock and roll, man. Let's see what we've got over here. Let's get the Kicks and Flats Addict series started. So, Sammy, thank you very much for this. Let's get going. Metallica, The Unforgiven. Let's go. Amazing.
New blood joins his earth, and quickly he's subdued. Through constant pain disgrace, the young boy learns their rules. With time the child draws in. This whipping boy had done a wrong, deprived of all his thoughts. The young man struggles on and on. He's no
Deprived of all his thoughts, the young man struggles on and on. Okay, so I kind of feel like this is about a childhood. I'm not entirely sure if it's about his own childhood or if he's just talking about a child, just a random child, right? Or it's maybe just a story, right? And playing into the title over here, The Unforgiven, it's almost like it's either he's not forgiving himself or he has a relationship with his family or friends or whatever it is, where they've never forgiven him because he's made a mistake. I'm not entirely sure. Instrumentation in this is absolutely fantastic. Love that so far, but let's carry on and see where this goes.
The young man struggles on and on. He's known a by one to his own. They never from this day his will and take away. When I felt what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown. Never be, never see, won't see what might have been. What I felt, what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown. Never free, never me, so I dug the Unforgiven.
This is actually quite crazy because I kind of feel like, so this child is actually feeling isolated. Like he went into the tunnel to be alone and he's carving stuff on the wall and whatever else. And you can see he's visibly sort of upset and distressed. And I kind of feel like this story is about a child that is... It feels like it's something to do with the parents, where it's kind of like unforgiven, maybe unforgiven for being born, like they really didn't want this child, or unforgiven for... I don't know, for whatever reason it is, but it kind of feels like he's been rejected, right? And that's kind of sat with him, that stayed with him, that's traumatized him his entire life, right? And now it's kind of like he's reminiscing, so he's going back in his life, and he's kind of like introspecting and trying to poke at the moments where like the start of all of his trauma, the start of all of his insecurities, and how that's developed on and how that's stuck with him. Right? I do kind of feel like it's about the actual singer itself, or himself, essentially. So anyway, that's where I'm what I'm going with right now.
They dedicate their lives to running all of hell. He tries to please them all. This bitter man hates.
That's a crazy line. They dedicate their lines to run out of theirs.
Tries to please them all. This bitter man hates. Throughout his life the same. He's battled constantly. This fight he cannot win. A tired man they see no longer cares. The old man they create.
Love the video where it transitions from a child who's scraping on the wall to it almost feels like they're in prison. They're in the prison of themselves, essentially. But it goes from a child to a man, a physically pristine man in his prime, right, with all the muscles and the ripping and all that kind of thing, and then into the old man where everything is sagging and whatever else. And it's like that's literally stayed with him his entire life, right? He's unforgiven by his people, or he's unforgiven by himself. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Like, is it himself that he's like he can't forgive himself for something? And that's remained with him his entire life, or it is like he's just unforgiven by his peers or unforgiven by his parents. I'm not entirely sure, but that trauma has stayed with him his entire life, and he has felt isolated his entire life because of it.
That old man here is me. What I've felt, what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown. Never be, never see.
See, what I felt, what I've known has never shined through what I've shown, right? So I've always just bottled that in. I've never put that out in the forefront. I've never allowed people to see that side of me.
Never be, never see. Won't see what might have been. What I felt, what I've known. Never shine doing what I've shown. Never free, never me. So I dub the unforgiven.
Loving this guitar though. I'm loving the actual video over here. The instrumentation on the solo, people are going to absolutely fucking kill me. I've just realized now. I'm stopping in a guitar solo. I'll take it back. I apologize. But the video over there is actually quite clever, and I had a thought on it, so that's why I didn't want to let go of that thought, where it's the child, and every time the child keeps flashing, the old man is now taking out the block out the wall. So basically he's escaping. So he's kind of escaping his childhood trauma, and what's on the other side of the wall is actually fauna. So it's trees and bushes, and it's almost like, you know, greener pastures are beyond the enclosure that he created for himself his entire life. So it's almost like he's coming to a closure for all of the trauma that he's experienced his entire life, feeling as if he couldn't forgive himself, or he's being unforgiven. Still one of those will apply. I'm just not entirely sure which one. But now that he's been digging that square his entire life to break out of this prison, but this prison is of his own mind. All right, and he eventually takes that block out, and on the other side is greener pastures, because it's kind of him like now finally, even though it's at the end of his life, dealing with that emotional trauma that he's had as a child, right? Dealing with his insecurities and things like that. So it's almost kind of like a message of like it's never too late to do something like that. And it's also a message of he's carried it his entire life, and that is what we do as human beings. We will carry that through our entire life, and we will have our regrets at the end. But at some point, even if it's on our deathbed, we're gonna have to let go of it. Do you know what I mean? We're gonna have to escape that pain and trauma, and it will come at some point. That's my interpretation. But anyway, let's just go back. I also love what's actually in the room over there. Firstly, that instrumentation over there that went into like the guitar solo and all that spoke to exactly what I said in my last thing. It spoke to that release. It spoke to that awakening, right? It was a lot. The instrumentation wasn't so somber. It was actually a lot more sort of uplifting. So it spoke to that realization of, okay, this is, I'm finally closing a chapter over here. What I do like about the video over here is in this isolated space that this old man is in and that the child was in and whatever else. It was everything the old man liked, and had. So the teddy bear there, which sends a message of innocence. The violin sends a message of, musicality. He loved music, you know what I mean? And all of those kind of things. And all of those things are kind of in the peripheries, on the walls. But it speaks to who he was as a character and what he loved as a character at the end of the day. So, and it could speak to how, even though he was in this isolated space, right? He had all of these different interests and things like that. And it can speak to like whether he showed the world that or not, you don't know. I guess it's for you to speculate. If it's about the actual singer itself, then he has. But in terms of like, he loved music, he was an innocent child, and all of this kind of thing is like kind of buried in his own psyche to a certain degree. But it is across the wall. So basically what this room represents, the room he's in, represents the cage of his psyche in his own mind. That's basically what it represents. Let's go.
Never shine doing what I've shown. Never free, never me. So I dug the Never free, never me. So I dug the Unforgiven. You labeled me, I label you. So I dug the Unforgiven. Never free, never me. So I dug the Unforgiven. You label me, I label you. So I dug the Unforgiven. Never free, never me. So I dug the.
See, over there, I kind of feel... Okay, so over there... That's very interesting, because over there, it's kind of like, he's fought his entire life, he's scraped this wall, he tried to, break himself out of this prison that he constructed for himself. And then towards the end of his life, like he actually saw the light, right? Where he kind of... although it's actually quite interesting because it's ironic to a certain degree, because it's like he's unforgiven, but he's actually forgiven himself, and by doing that he's seen the light, which kind of means that he's going to be eternally free now, essentially, because he dies in that prison anyway. He dies in his own mind. He doesn't have the opportunity to actually free himself before he dies within that psyche at the end of the day. But I kind of feel like that was his moment of the light. That was his closure at the end of his life, where he was releasing all of that. And it is what it is. I was unforgiven my entire life, you know what I mean? And even though I finally did see the light, I kind of like forgive myself, right? But I die in this room either way, because I'm unforgiven by the world, by the existence, right? This was my hand to play, this was my card, and this is how it's been my entire life. And I lived in this room, I die in this room, but at least at the end of my life, I can actually see the light. So he will be forgiven, essentially. That's basically what the music video would tell you, it is kind of telling you. It's like he is seeing the light. So him physically remains unforgiven in the forsaken world, but his soul will be eternally forgiven as he goes on to the eternal metaphysical space, essentially. So you guys let me know what you think down below, man. That was just my interpretation. That was very cool. Love the instrumentation on this, love the guitar on this. But I'm not surprised, because the guitar that Metallica plays, just based on the one song that I do know very well of theirs, is very good. So yeah, so let's rock and roll. Let's get on to the next one, and yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Peace.